Testing 1, 2, 3. Boa tarde aí a todos. Estão me ouvindo? Tá tudo bem? Conseguindo me ouvir? Bom, boa tarde. Meu nome é Jarbas Paranhos. Eu sou médico, radiologista aqui em Foz do Iguaçu e estou aqui, sou também estou na Consecutivos, né, como voluntário.
Hello, I am Jarbas, I am in Consecutivos, and today I am here for us to talk about this subject, who is very important for me, which is synchronicity. Before that, I would like you to please answer back this poll. I'm placing here right in front of the screen, and guys, it is translated into 3 languages. First is Portuguese, the second is in Spanish, and the third one is in English. So please read the poll and answer it back as soon as you can. Thank you. He's waiting for us to go ahead and keep the class.
Se eu falar, já aparece?
Okay, can I go ahead? He asked, very interesting. He said, we have many students, just one person from first time, biggest majority from experienced student. He says it's important, it's amplify his responsibility. He's waiting, uh, he's waiting for our questions. Feel free. So even if he cannot answer now, he says that feel free to send all the questioning. He will be able to answer every question. None question will be without an answer. It's important to bring all the doubts and all the questioning. He would be happy to exchange even his doubt with us because he thinks that it's a very transcendent subject.
Voltou. Saiu de novo. Bom, então vamos voltar ao nosso curso. Eu sempre gosto.
So let's come back to our course. He always likes to start this course with this image, which is a watch, a clock from Prague, with 2 clocks. One is from timing and another is astrological clock. This shows how important synchronicity was even on the Middle Age, Renaissance. I think was he thinks it's Illuminism, during the Illuminism, and it's important for us to analyze how nice in every culture on this planet, all the lines, all the geographical points, wherever there was people together, there was also people studying synchronicity. And this is one of the biggest issues from synchronicity. Perhaps he thinks that synchronicity is the most transcendent and obscure and hard to be understand in terms of structure and ontology. But on the other hand, it's also the most present phenomena on our day by day, during our routine. And many of the times during our day, we don't perceive. Whenever we start to pay attention on this phenomena, there we can see that there are useful information under those phenomena, and it's extremely useful for our evolution whenever we start to amplify our perception towards this phenomena. It's like, for example, you never pay attention into a red car. Whenever you buy a red car, you start paying attention on all the other red cars. So whenever we start to pay attention, even if this thing was kind of hidden in our life, it's just about starting to think, and then we can see that just because we decided to perceive. And when we decided to perceive, this goes inside our focus. So we are not here going to talk about this day-by-day synchronicity, about the telephone number or birthday. He would like to talk in a more philosophical way, more a theoretical approach. And even though, nevertheless, he knows that that goes against about what we proposed in conscientiology, because we reinforce that in conscientiology we used to say, do not believe on anything, have your own experiences. Nevertheless, this class from today pops out a little bit from that, because the structure of the synchronicity, it's probably a subject from an intermissive course. So, folks, if I say here any neologisms, any subject, any lexical, any word that you don't understand, please ask as well. So he thinks that synchronicity is a subject from intermissive course, from evolutionologist, from evolutionary orientator. Why? Because he understands and he thinks that for us to understand what is a synchronicity in an ontological point of view, like in underline subjected, and we need to understand, we need to have a cosmic consciousness, because with the cosmic consciousness, we would be able to understand the interaction with the cosmos and how important it is to understand the interaction we have with the cosmos, because it is really personal towards the universe. Why this happened? So it is, of course, he knows it's very bold, to research this subject. There is no way he would not be teaching us here how the universal laws they work, and how cosmo consciousness phenomena works. He has no possibility to do that, but he had megaphorization, no, the phenomena that Professor Vieira applied on us on Tertuliarium, and he thinks that megaphorization would scratch a little bit the phenomena. And as far as he understands, we are going to analyze this subject inside a historical view, meaning how those people from the beginning of the ages, they created shapes, they created structure in order to study synchronicity and using them. Applying to imperators, queens, and crucial decisions in the human history. They were taken after the consultation of certain people. So all the cultures in the world, they probably had a more evolved consciousness that were able to perceive the laws of synchronicities. So he needs to understand, he needs to create what he is reinforcing that what we need to do, we need to create an interface and connect with us in a way that the signals that comes from synchronicity, they are able to be perceived. That's why all the laws, most of the laws created interfaces, no? You folks remember that before the computer, it was the DOS, the DOS system. No, we need to type back them under old computers. It's time for us to interact with the computer. Today, it's completely different, no? So a biggest idea from Apple and Microsoft and Xerox as well, what they did, they create a better a friendship interface, as opposed of us having to type everything. We just click in a button, and by clicking the button we would be able to interact straightforward with the program without the need for us to type. So all the lines that we are going to talk today, they were kind of attempting, and all the tempting um, hard is everything that started, no, on the old times. So all those lines, they tried to create those connections, those interface, in order for us to, for them to perceive and to interact directly with the universal laws. As he is reinforcing, it's hard to interact directly, like having a cosmo-consciousness, no? So, for example, astrology, tarot, I Ching, so on and so forth. All that are interfaces, are connections that were attempted to create in order to interact with the macrocosmos, with the cosmic flow, and try to perceive what are the information, and not exactly the information, he says, but the situation, like measuring, like a thermometer. So saying, I am here. So trying to interact with those laws in order for us to know what is happening. Basically, under all the knowledges, the lines of knowledges, the mancias, as he says, we have many mancias that were created during the human history. They were attempting to create friendship connection in order to interact with the cosmic flow. So we are going to start bit by bit, and later on he will explain better what he meant with the cosmic flow and what is this interaction, why it happens. So when they started to create those connections, like for example, under shamanism, even before philosophy and before the beliefs, one of the most old images that we have is the one who is placed here, which is um, a turtle shell. From the beginning of the agriculture, 3,000 years before Christ, when they built the pyramids in Egypt, the Sphinx, those pyramids, they started also in China to develop this connection with the, what was this exactly? They would place kind of magic symbols in this turtle shell, and this turtle shell would be thrown under the fire. And according to the fire, according to the scratches that would happen in this turtle shell, and according to the symbols that they were being scratched or being cracked, they would be analyzing and thinking the probabilities and the line of synchronicities and the sequence of probabilities, maybe that were the most possible to happen. The perspectives that they could analyze. So based on that, for example, they would wait a week to start a war, even connected with the power, with power people, people with power. They always look for those informations in order for them to decide and have the political important decision. And they would look for every type of information they could. So this is one of the most principles, maybe one of the first attempts about those Manchias. Of course, not talking about Egypt. No?
Interação direta com as consciências
Like
dessas três
trying
entidades.
to interact,
Isso
trying to
não é
connect
constrangido de
straightforward
consciências físicas. Isso aqui já liga
with
direto ao fluxo cósmico,
laws.
está buscando
So
interações
this
diretas
is
com a
connecting.
situação
This
do
is in
momento,
order
com o
to
zeitgeist
connect
do
with the
momento, com
zeitgeist,
aquele
with the
momento, o que é
moment
mais favorável,
situation.
o que é mais
What is
favorável para
in
eu
that
conseguir isso ou
moment,
não.
what is more
Isso aqui,
favorite to
talvez
happen
as
or
próprias
not.
consciências, as próprias ampérias
Perhaps
daquela época
even the
esperavam resultados
consciences,
aqui também para tomar suas
they
decisões.
would wait
E não
for
passou, na
results like
realidade,
that
boa
to
parte
take
deles, da capacidade
decisions.
de cosmovisão, até mesmo dos
Like
amparadores daquela época. Então,
qualifying the
aqui
capacity
tinha
of
ressalvas
cosmic
desses
view
bandos
back
que
then.
já estavam bem avançados, que eram extraterrestres, estavam aí para ajudar a gente.
So
Né? Então, esse aqui é o primeiro sinal que a gente
he's
tem assim,
he's
mais
reinforcing that this is the first signal that we have,
dessas mancias,
which
né,
is
dessas
more
tentativas de
connected with
criação de uma interface
attempting and
que
with
ligasse
mancias
a nossa
in order
realidade
to
com o fluxo
establish
cósmico e desse alguma dica
interfaces with
para
our
o que
reality,
fazer.
our physical reality with the
Basicamente,
cosmos,
sempre,
in
quando
order
se
to
fala
give us
em
hints
sincronicidade,
about what we should do.
volta ou não, vai bater. A primeira coisa, deixa eu voltar aqui um
Basically,
pouquinho, eu queria falar a definição. Está bem
so
claro
he
que a
would like
definição que a
to
gente dá na
reinforce what
sociologia
is the definition
de
of
sincronicidade.
synchronicity.
Essa definição aqui foi feita pelo professor
So this
Walter
definition
Vieira,
was
de
made by
sincronicidade.
Professor Vieira in the
Certo? Ele
verbete
escreveu isso em
synchronicity, entry synchronicity.
sentido.
If
É
those
muito
can read,
importante
please
esse
read
texto.
this entry.
Ele
It's
faz um
quite
resumo
important.
fantástico
Whenever he does a summary, he
Então, a
summarized about
sincronicidade é a
what we call
qualidade, veja
synchronicity.
bem os termos, é
So
muito importante essa definição.
synchronicity, analyze the words, is
É
the quality,
qualitativo
meaning
da
it's
sincronicidade
qualitative,
crônica
of
ocorrendo
synchronic
ao mesmo
reality
tempo,
occurring,
ao mesmo
existing,
tempo,
or
olha
appearing
só,
at the same time,
simultâneo,
simultaneous, concomitant, homochronous, tautochronous, contemporary,
interconectada, inclusive em
interconnected,
diferentes
even in different
momentos
places,
diferentes
like
daquele
a
acontecimento.
coincidence of a certain event with
Qual é a
another.
medida da sincronicidade? É o
What is the
fluxo
measure of the
aí
synchronicity?
a gente
So
vai
it
ver na
is
realidade
the
que
flow to
é
sin.
isso.
No?
Existe o fluxo cósmico.
What is
Então, o
that?
fluxo
We have the
cósmico,
cosmic flow,
provavelmente, né?
no,
Certo?
which is
Então, o
probably
quando começou o fluxo cósmico,
it
ou
was
seja,
built the genesis from the
porque
prime
daí
to sin.
provavelmente
No?
fluxo
So,
cósmico,
like for example,
intenção,
when we talk
isso
about
não,
immanent
isso é a mesma coisa.
energy, we talk
Então,
about
assim,
the
ó, veja
cosmic
bem,
flow.
no
So
nosso fluxo cósmico pessoal,
in our
existem
personal
insanidade,
cosmic
né?
flow,
Insanidade é
our
essa narrativa
personal
que a
thought,
gente
our
tem todo
personal
dia,
thought
que
sin.
me dá essa
So
ilusão
this
de eu sou,
narrative that we have
de
every
identidade.
day that give us the
Essa
illusion about
narrativa
myself. For example, he says,
ela é
who is
estável,
Jarbas?
que
No,
a
Jarbas is a
frequência é estável.
narrative
Eu acordo,
from
eu gosto de
himself
Jarbas, eu gosto
in
disso, eu
which
gosto
he
disso, eu vou
updated
ver isso,
every day
isso é
whenever he wakes
é a
up.
profissão.
So he knows he
Então, tem
has
um
this
artista
profession,
que se
no,
chama Jarbas,
and
e vamos
his
ver
life
isso, e
happened this,
vamos
this, and
aprender
that. So in a
a
way that
viver
we
essa
analyze our
profissão.
life. So we have a
Essa
kind of
narrativa.
narrative
Então,
about our life.
esse fluxo
So
mediado,
how his flow,
interage com o
how
fluxo
Jarba's
da
flow
consciência,
interact with the cosmic
de
flow
todas as coisas, da sequência
from all the
contínua de
things, from
evolução
all
do
the
cosmos,
lines, the
interage
evolutionary
com a
lines from
unidade
the
medida
cosmos.
das
How
relações
I
interpersonais.
interact is
Aí
exactly
que
the
a gente tem
unity of measurement of the synchronicity.
claramente qual é o meu nível
This
evolutivo.
is
A
this
forma
clearly
como eu
can gives me
envolvo
my
as coisas
evolutionary level. So the way I
a evolução
interact
do cosmos
with the
é o
cosmos,
evolutivo.
it's my evolutionary
Dependendo
level.
do nível que você está, como você interage com as coisas.
So if you want to know how you are, if you want to understand better your level, you need to know how you
E aqui é o
interact with things.
do sincronicidade.
And then we start to understand a little bit about what we are
Qual que é
saying
o
about
mínimo de evolução?
synchronicity. So it's not only those simple things like thinking, oh my gosh, look at that. In the telephone, my phone number is like my account number, my cell phone number.
Sim.
Those things, they are very superficial. But he is addressing all the aspects from synchronicity, all the phenomena, all the parapsychic phenomena. It's like a pangraphy for us to arrive in this point until we arrive the cosmos consciousness. That would be the maximal conscientization of our reality. So about your reality. So everything starts everything, yeah, we can start perceiving our account number, our bank number. No, it's okay. But it's extremely important as well, those little things, okay? No? But those little synchronicities, they connect, they connected. One little synchronicity connects with another little synchronicity, so on and so forth, until we can have an overview about our entire reality. So unfortunately, there is no other thing to do. We have to register. No? If we register, we create a kind of corpus of information, and then with the time, it will give you views that you never imagined about your reality, about what you are doing here, where I am, what I'm doing, what I'm doing here. And then we start to sketch this methodology of synchronicity. Yeah, let's start analyzing little things, our name, our date of birth. Have you guys thought about your name? There are very nice and very important synchronicities about our name. So his name is Arabic, no? Jarbas means Jarbaal, no? Comes from Phoenicius, no? North of Africa. So imagine 5,000 years ago, no? Now that he is starting to analyze, no? So he's starting to analyze his name. His name is also connection with how he arrived in this planet. No, it gives for us a nice hint about ourselves, and this is very interesting. No, for example, it's also the name of his father, and his father has the same name as he has. And this is something about synchronicity that we need to analyze. Synchronicity is personal, it's individual, it's from every one of us. No, it's not about the others, for example. It's not a number 11 from Paulo Vieira. Oh, now I'm going to have a number 11. No, that is connected with Paulo Vieira. So the 11 for himself, he says it's 10 plus 1. He has other numbers that have important meaning for him. But he discovered those numbers by himself. And that would be repeating, repeating, repeating. So those things, he says, are very interesting for us to analyze. Other thing important and connected with Baal, no, where he was born, no, Baal, if you look in Bible, you can look, and you will find a place in the Bible named Monte Carmelo, and then you will find a connection. And he was born in Monte Carmelo, Minas Gerais, Brazil. So even if his mother wanted, she would not be able to give more specific information. So those relationships, they are very old. They are very old time connected, no? So he has not much of idea about it. So who knows? But he registered there. No? One day, perhaps something, in some way, I would be able to find specific meaning. So he says, I am giving you simple examples because sometimes you can see things that were right in front of us, screaming for us, and we did not perceive. No? Perhaps not now, but maybe in the future that will explode right in front of you. So we talk here about the cosmic flow. So basically, whenever we talk about synchronicity, it's the relationship between microcosmos and macrocosmos. which are us, our ego, our narrative, our Tosanic flow. So this phrase perhaps is one of the most known phrase by those occultists and magicians. No, it's a phrase that is connected with hermeticism, which is an important phrase. No? The name of this text is Esmeraldine. It's Tábua Esmeraldina, so it's probably Esmeraldine table, which was created in Alexandrian and the first among first and second century after Christ, and they try to register the hermetic bodies, the hermeticism knowledge, in order to be able to keep this important knowledge. So there is a line who believes that Apollonius of Tyana was responsible for that phrase, but we know that the Apollonius of Tyana disappeared from history by the Catholic Church, and then with the time he disappeared. But among those alchemists back then, they were able to keep the Plato serve academy, by the century 10th, 11th, and they say that this phrase is comes from Apollonius of Tyana. So there are many texts from Apollonius that has known here in the Occident translated, but you can find them in Arabic. And this is very important, no? So it's not possible to think that we can kill a personality, no? So and the Arabic alchemists, because he was considered the mago of the talisman, and he was the most responsible expert on parapsychic back then. So this phrase summarize what old people from all the lines they would understand as synchronicity is, which is what is below is like what is above, and what is above is like what is below, to perform the miracles of a single thing. And just as all things comes from the one, so all things are unique by adaptation. So Pythagoreanism is based on this phrase. No, so that was this phrase. This phrase was after Pythagoras, because Pythagoras came from the 6th century before Christ, and Apollonius of Tyana is the 1st century after Christ. So what is this? This is the interaction with a pensanic flow. So what is the relationship between our Tosin with cosmic flow? So this is for us to show the connection between microcosmos and macrocosmos. So microcosmos is our personal way of thinking, and macrocosmos is the cosmos, and the capacity we have to interact. So this is probably one of the most famous phrases under the exoteric knowledges. So basically this is from the Hermeticism, is the corpus hermetic. This comes from Egypt, from Alexandrian. Even the master of Plotino helped to book this help to write a book and help to compound this corpus of knowledge.
Outra coisa, Alexandria, ela foi marco nesse estudo. Justamente por quê? Porque lá, como tinha a facilidade
Alexandria was important.
ou museu, né, a Casa das Musas, ou Museu de Alexandria, e tem principalmente a Biblioteca de Alexandria, havia grande
We're talking about the museum from Alexandria
era só de tradição oral.
that was just for speaking.
Os pitagóricos, passar orçamento pitagóricos por papel era caso de pena de morte. Você era condenado à morte. Se você pegasse as instruções de Pitágoras e escrevesse elas, isso bastava você ser condenado à morte.
If you write all the information, you can be died. So you have just to talk. When you talk about the lines from Egypt, all the traditional was just speaking, not writing. Some of this was written, but you have to understand about the symbolism of all this information. You have to have the keys to understand what do they say. A kind of key that probably they lost, and you don't know exactly what do they mean about the whole information that they talk about it. Nowadays, they compare about the conscientiology. It's how to understand, how you can understand yourself, about your energies, to dominate your energies, your emotion. Comparing to now, all that passed in the past is like today, like now. When we talk about this in tertulias, we are talking about techniques, and then we are comparing to the past that they even had techniques to explain the informations. For example, in India, they explain about symbols, and they have to try to understand what each symbol means. The question was how we can do this, and everyone that tried to discover, they trying to explain that everyone arrived in a moment or limit, and the next one they have to understand and redo it again. So everything you have to understand, you have to study before to pass to another person. What we are doing now is trying to understand what we study about the past, trying to understand that, and then we are trying to do a better way. When you study history, so you learn with the mistakes for not doing anymore. So we have to avoid to do again the same mistake that probably people did in the past. So probably they are talking about this phrase from Apollonius de Tyana of Tyana.
Mais o que a gente quer realmente dizer com esse macrocosmo.
So the next information, we are going to try to talk about everything that we are talking now, but in other symbols, other ideas. So the relationship about the microcosmos and macrocosmos means that who I am now and the relation of about the cosmos. So we have to create an interface between, for example, astrology. Most of people try to do the study about astrology. Nowadays, people talk about planets that influence people or moment.
Eles veem isso, já era criticado imensamente por Cardano.
When they start to study about astrology, they was that people talk that there is no meaning about talking the stars or the planet, but the main part of parasitism. So the zodiac is something that people follow, and there is no meaning exactly about the influence of people. But the astrology, they have some laws. There was a reality behind astrology as a science. So what does it mean, the astrology? In Iraq or Iran, they lived in the desert. So what they have, just to see the sky. There was no link between seasons, spring, summer, or winter. But at night, they could see the stars and trying to start study about the stars. So what is this, the cycle in the desert? The meaning of the zodiac is a kind of clock. When you have the cosmic flows, so you can understand this clock. It's like a time. It doesn't mean if some stars passing or is in this point influence you. When you study about astrology, when you was born, is the law of affinities. When you study about yourself, you can attract something or people that are close or similar as you. So when you study your past life, so you can influence other people that you live together or you have the same influence. When you rebirth, you can check about the sky in that moment. But when you rebirth, you have to check about what kind of planet or influence of that planet. But most of the part that you had before is influence, and it's like you choose the moment that you have to rebirth. So the consciousness can bring the affinity of that group or that moment by the temperament. It's your temperament that influences your decision about your day or moment that you have to rebirth. So it's the relationship directly by your temperament. For example, some people that was born in the season or the period of Capricorn, in some places, for example, in South Hemisphere, it's summer, or in the North Hemisphere is winter. So you have to check about where you can rebirth. So they had to create a map that is related from the South Hemisphere and North Hemisphere. That makes a big difference. And trying to organize the tendencies of that person in that place. So, when you are in your mother's body, when you are inside, before to rebirth, this relation was together, but at the moment that you rebirth, you have to have your own influence. So that moment that rebirth can give you a probability or a tendency that you organize. So you rebirth in the moment that you have the affinity of this group or that moment. So the moment that you rebirth is the moment that you are in your group or proaxis or your tendency. So this is the most important moment when you rebirth and connect with this group or your tendency. There is no determination that you have to rebirth in a group. It's about your temperament that you are related with that moment. So when you rebirth and the cosmos is correlated in that moment, that is, you are going to start your probability of event. So it's not an idea that when you rebirth that you have just negative scene is related that you can have an accident. Everything that is happening in this moment is correlated by yourself.
Esse determinismo bobo. Eu não quero saber isso. Para que eu vou
saber? So, the synchronicity is not to think about that you can know that in 3 years, for example, you can have an accident in some place. But you have to use the synchronicity to do things much better that you can do it now. So you have to understand about the tendency that you can do better or reinforce or improve.
como que a coisa acontecer, todos os amparadores, os serenões e as mesmas, ou eles saíam a campo para reforçar.
For example, when the Serenissimos, the helpers, can know about something that's going to happen in the future, they can have a probability that probably they can help this group to happen or to do things. Or, for example, if there's something that's really bad, something that he can stop before or even do less problem that is possible. For example, if you have a tendency that you can understand 80% of things can happen, so you can do better for not happen. For example, if it's something is bad, you can stop. For example, it's not interesting to know all the future, all the things that you can understand about your future, because it's not so interesting. But I have to report something that can be very good, or to avoid things that can be something bad. For example, in movies that we can see something happen in the past, that people can go in the past, they talk about that they can change something in the past, but that's not happened. For example, the thing that can happen is not about the time, but the cosmic flows in that moment. So the time is one of the things that can happen, but the most important is the cosmic flows.
Vendendo aqui pelo mesmo preço que eu comprei, porque eu não tenho experiência para pessoal, vivencial, para afirmar isso. Então, tudo isso que foi dito aqui são hipóteses, são no máximo hipóteses. São assim, uma tentativa de arranhar um pouco ali a mateologia. Então, assim,
everything that he is saying is a way, is an attempt, it's a hypothesis, it's a way to try to scratch evolutionology. Because the discoverers, they always arrived only for people who are prepared. No, for example, a guy discovered something because he was studying it. Serendipity doesn't happen just par hazard. We have a brain dictionary. We need to have a brain dictionary we need to prepare our brain dictionary. How should we prepare our brain dictionary for neophilia? It's exactly placing more neophilia, studying more, preparing your exegetic, your heuristic. Because everything that we talk here in conscientiology basically was told in the past. Of course, now not with this methodology, no. But why we study conscientiology? Because of the Verpons, the leading edge relative true, no. For example, when you say for a Greek person, oh, we have a thunder here, no, maybe a Greek person would say, no, it's a Thor, no, back then, no. So phenomena is more or less the same. The capacity of we being able to interpret that is completely different. So the phenomena that we study in conscientiology, they are the same since long time ago. But the corpus of knowledge in order for us to interpret those phenomena are completely different. No, they are completely original. So he has never ever researched and he has never ever saw in the history those tools as we used here in conscientiology. So efficient, so clean, far from garbage, far from brain garbage from the past, far from this heavy stuff from the past, far from the mysticism from the past. No, things that the mystical stuff, for example, they always will press the phenomena. And today we have today is completely different. We have clean tools in order for us to interpret the phenomena. What? Because in the past, we would connect those phenomena with God, with a guru, with a master. But today, no, it's different. You are your master. So you are the person who research and who is looking for new information and new researches. No? So why he's now talking about Serenissimus? Well, Serenissimus, they are Serenissimus because they were able to bring for themselves the responsibility of evolution without master, without gurus, no, without so on and so forth. So all this that we are saying here, we are trying to bring a little bit of knowledge that were completely buried with mental garbage from the past. So it is hard. There's so many garbage. It's hard to pinpoint useful stuff. No, it's for example, it's like now, let's suppose you are trying to access internet using a radio. No? So astrology, Kabbalah, they were radios, no? And we are trying to talk in a quantum computer language. So we need to understand quantum computer, for example, no? And people that whenever they use astrology, they are using old radios. So that's why he says astrology, for example, today, even Nostradamus, Paracelso, they would criticize what they called judicial astrology. But nevertheless, they used that in order to understand group political tendencies. So astrology it's a nice thing to analyze as long as we analyze a big group, a big context. Of course, if you establish your astral map, you have probabilities, no? But astrology would not tell you what happened or what will not happen. No planet would interfere anybody at all. The planet just show their moment. So we and the planet, we are connected with the cosmic flow. He's reinforcing that it is not the planet who is interfering in our life. No? The planet is according to our moment. That's why it's synchronic. So let's suppose, for example, folks who were born in a specific month, or they have certain tendencies, no, that they could analyze. It was how they created astral maps. But that doesn't happen because of a planet, no. So people who have certain kind of tendency, they connect whenever they are born due to affinity. No? I Ching is the same. There are no planets that would interfere on I Ching. No, there are no mancias. No, they just show us the momentum, which is the group of power that would act on top of you in that moment. And the mutation, the transformation from that, and the tensions that were generated in that moment, no? And the sense of what that will happen. So this is, yeah, it is useful for an imperator. No, an imperator needs to decide if he's going to establish a war today or next week. Yeah, okay, you can you can you can decide not to start a war now. You can decide to start a war next week. But it's not meaning, this doesn't mean that Jupiter is against the war. No, no, this is not the point. No, he is talking about the tendency. So So let's suppose, even if you are aware of something that is negative, even if you have this information, you try to go to a specific place and try to diminish that or even avoid that to happen. So what we could do is remove bellicistic tendency from the energy about what is happening on that moment. So it's the old history. Whenever people study the Mancias, you are on top of the mountain. You are looking two trains. You see one from the right, another from the left. Of course, you are looking and you see that both trains are going to collapse. You can see under your view, with your amplified views, that those trains, if they are the way they are, they will end crashing. No. So it's like the helpers. The helpers, they only manifestate themselves with two bodies, no? Psychosoma and mental soma. So they have a point of view, a cosmovisiological point of view that for us it's impossible here with having four bodies. So the capacity of the helpers for them to predict the tendencies and the happenings and the things that are going to happen, they are much superior than our tendencies, that of course. So whenever you pop out from your body, whenever you are lucid and pop out from your body, you know, you can use those informations, no? But we don't need anymore. We don't need to use those Mancias and those radio old batteries stuff, no? So he is bringing historical environment, historical context here. No? So those old things, they are not pragmatical for us to use today. No, parapsychism, for example, we have a lot of parapsychism that is much more advanced. So he's asking about a question. He's waiting for a question. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, all. We're having an echo. I'm sorry, folks. There is no sound coming from the lady who is talking. She's having a technical problem, I think.
Estão me ouvindo agora? Só um minutinho, que daí sobre perguntas ainda tem algumas outras que eu já vou ler, que você pode responder junto. O Cabalion foi escrito em Alexandria? A question about Cabalion. When was written Cabalion? He says Cabalion was written on the 19th century. Few people will say that were written by two people. So two people, he's not aware of the names. He's missing the names. He knows that it's a man and a woman. It was the end of the 19th century and the beginning of the 20th century, based on the Hermetism from Alexandria, not from not old Hermeticism. It's based on Alexandria. Another question. She has no sound.
O professor conhece o livro Logos, A Odisseia da Inteligência Espiritual, de Luciano Meira, em 2010?
Não.
I think it's someone asking about the book Logos, Spiritual Intelligence. And the student said that he read and he qualified his parapsychism. And he received some specific name by telepathy. No? And Jarba says that he doesn't know anything, he's not aware of this book.
Agora, a primeira pergunta lá, qual o melhor livro?
He thinks it's interesting, he would research, no?
Cada
But
livro é coisa, não teve um livro que despertou isso, assim, né? Cada um
also a question, the student also asked, what was the best book about synchronicity? And Jarba says, well, depend. The first book that caught my attention was Fernán Capello Gaivota. No? So every one of us, no, the water would knock in knocking the door of everyone in different moments. So Fernán Capello Gaivota, no, it's allegory, very symbolic book, no, very artistic literature, but called my attention. No, Krishnamurti. Krishnamurti, when he heard for the first time this name, one alarm. He was 12,
tinha gibi que eu tinha comprado que tinha o nome Krishnamurti. Quando eu bati o nome, eu vi aquilo ali,
he bought a comic with the name Krishnamurti. And whenever he opened that comic, one alarm popped out in his head, and then he started back then. 12, 13, he started to look for Kardec, and then the name Zephyr is very strong for him. He said it's not Zephyr, it's Zephyr. He has Zephyr name record marked in his hologram. So he says it is exactly what folks study in consecutivos, sociological institution.
Realmente esqueci o nome. Mas assim, essas questões que trazem, né, essa levanta sua memória. Isso é sincronicidade.
Shake your whole memory. This is synchronicity.
Chegou não por vias diretas. Você não está procurando
information that arrived to you. He was not looking for Krishnamurti. He was not looking for Zephyr. Those names, they popped out in his mind, in his brain. This is something that's because due to the interaction, microcosmos, microcosmos, they are mental interaction. They are mental somatic. They come from the mental dimension. So he says it's not cause interaction. They are Newtonian. They come with a meaning. If those interactions they have meaning, they are totally related with mental dimension.
O fenômeno da sincronicidade
of synchronicity,
perfeitamente mental, somático.
Strictly mental somatic phenomenon.
Mas ele se dá no mental, porque ele é um fenômeno de interação de sincronicidade.
Could be even psychosomatic. It happens in the mental dimension because it's an interaction between meaning, effect, cause.
O significado da minha cabeça é uma causa e efeito, óbvio.
They activated something.
Falava que era um fenômeno acausal, é porque ele não queria entrar no processo da espiritualidade, que ele conhecia muito bem. Mas ele pulou fora porque tinha um nome a prezar, né? Um acadêmico a prezar. Agora, sem fazer proselitismo, de tudo que eu já li até hoje,
everything that he read today about a chapter from this book, Léxico de Ortopensatas, which is the third volume from Léxico de Ortopensatas Léxico. That he is challenged us to find anything better in terms of synchronicity than that. It's the biggest syntax from all. The prime sin is very different. So, for example, the prime sin is meaningful. It's meaningful in the cosmos. For example, he's reading, I think he's reading one paragraph, one ortho wrote in
Porque
that
envolve coisas
text de
assim que
ortopensatas
não
or
dá para passar de área, você não vai além.
which
Chegou,
is the
acabou.
prime tossing
Nesse momento, né? Acredito que depois, lá na frente, quando a gente for conseguir ex livre, tá, com certeza a coisa continua.
this is very
A
advanced,
gente
but
pode
of
até esperar
course,
mais um
ahead
pouco
you
antes
can
disso.
think about,
Mas,
we
assim,
can consider free
vivencialmente, bateu no meu teto. E essa frase. O primo.
So,
Agora,
the
precisa.
prime,
Não adianta você ler essa frase, deixar bonitinho e pregar na parede, vai ficar repetindo como um mantra.
of course, there is
Você tem que ir lá,
no need if
estudar a
you,
fundo. O que é um primo
there is no
possessivo?
need just
O que é um
reading the
primo possessivo? O
phrase,
que é
no,
exatamente?
you need to
O
study.
que é
You need to
sincronificante?
study what is
A
synchronificant.
abordagem, né, feita pelo primo pensante. Isso dá pano pra manga, assim, que eu ainda estou longe de chegar perto de destrinchar essa
So
frase.
we need to,
Agora, cada um vai ter o seu ponto.
yeah, we need to analyze. Of course, every one of us will have a different understanding about this phrase, no? And please do not elude yourself by the text, by thinking that the text is very simple.
São termos difíceis,
And sometimes people would even consider it difficult because of the names, no? So please do not think they are difficult because of the names. They are difficult not due to the names. They are difficult because they are very deep, no? There is even a connection between Kabbalah, no, that we are going to talk ahead. No, there are many, many syntax that we can understand. So, going further, so he will
basicamente porque aqui,
talk
ó,
a bit.
é o ponto que eu queria chegar principal.
So,
Pitágoras.
here is the point he would like to arrive.
Até
Pythagoras.
hoje, eu acho que talvez
Until
até
today,
então, até chegar em
Pythagoras, until we
tudo isso que
arrived
diz
in
respeito à
Pythagoras,
sincronicidade era
everything
estudado
that were
de forma
connected
extremamente
with
mística.
synchronicity
Hoje
were
tinha o
studied in
grandãozão
a
mesmo
very
que
mystical
falava
way.
as coisas, todo mundo baixava a cabeça e
So
ouvia.
that
Mesmo no
one person
Xing, né?
would
Mais
talk
ou
and
menos no
the
estudo, no
others
curso sobre Xing,
will
mais ou menos
place
na
the
época de
head down.
Pitágoras, os dois estavam estudando basicamente a mesma coisa,
Pythagoras
na
and
mesma
Confucius,
época,
they
eles são
were studying
contemporâneos, né?
more or
Pitágoras e
less,
Confúcio,
they were
só que Confúcio estava usando o
contemporaneous.
Xing
No?
e Pitágoras estava usando a
Confucius
matemática.
were using I
Isso é
Ching
muito
and
interessante,
Pythagoras
porque
were
Pitágoras era
using
um iniciado,
mathematician.
foi iniciado no Egito.
No? So
Ele pegou
Pythagoras initiated
o rei lá
his studies
da
in
Grécia, lá,
Egypt,
que tinha
and
tirano lá terrível, extremamente amigo do faraó que estava no Egito.
he receives from
E
his
Pitágoras,
father.
porque o pai do Pitágoras era grego,
Pythagoras'
filho do
father
Egito, né? O
were
pai de Pitágoras deu uma
friend
prosperada lá e Pitágoras foi ser iniciado lá no Egito, pelos maiores
from
da
someone
época.
in
E ele
Egypt.
ficou só lá.
And then
Depois
the
ele foi
Pythagoras' father
para o
brought
Egito, para Babilônia.
Pythagoras to
Na
Egypt
Babilônia
to
também foi
initiate
um
Pythagoras.
grande referencial, que
And
ele já era
then
iniciado.
Pythagoras arrived in Babylon, and he arrived as a big philosopher, a big mystical in Babylon.
E lá ele estudou também com os
And
babilônios,
there he studied with the magus from Babylon, study astrology, and then he comes back to Greece and he starts to open his own school. And then he couldn't open his school, and then he escaped to Italy. And in Italy, he opened his school. Perhaps Pythagoras is the inflection point from all parapsychic study in this planet, he thinks. He thinks that everything that is connected with the parapsychism in a more scientific and pragmatical way, those who initiate the study, those who study parapsychism in a very pragmatical way, even those who are not just following sects or gurus, try to understand and use the parapsychism, they would knock in Pythagoras. So Jarbas think he cannot be mistaken. He thinks that Pythagoras studied that in a more pragmatical way. Pythagoras gave names to the pair of phenomena. He was a big mystical and also a big scientist. or for you to have an interview in Pythagoras, according to Jarbas, you would need to stay 5 years quiet until you were able to have an interview with Pythagoras. So people say. So one of the things that he would do, that Pythagoras would do, was talking with people about parasites. I don't know, said he's not sure because he did not study only Pythagoras. He studied people who talked about Pythagoras. But even from any initiatic line that comes from Occident, no, different than Orient, basically the entire Pythagoras knowledge comes from Egypt, where everything started, and he used it a lot. The biggest study from Pythagoras, with no doubt, was synchronicity. But he used for that math, not this quantitative math that we know. It was qualitative math. So whenever he says all things are number, we have to understand what he meant by number. So number was not quantity, was what meant. So for example, even Plato talks about the dimension of the forms. No, Plato were Pythagoreal. No, the problem of Plato were that the exoteric part were theoretical. No, and he did not did not write much about. So Plato wrote 36 books. Maybe the biggest books from all the times comes from Plato, but even then, nevertheless, Plato is a Pythagoreal. Plato interfered everybody, and he were interfered by Pythagoras. So let's check his image here. No, number equals to arithmo. So he says, arithmo is the rhythm from which it means the flow. So the number from Pythagoras meant the flow. So if I understood correctly, it's the meaning, no? The number, a number that organized this, meaning is that a mater chosin that organized that. So that if we understand the way Pythagoras meant, it's important. So the rhythm is the experience of the ordered flow of a movement. Rhythm is in time what symmetry is in space. So the harmony just is built from the interaction of opposition. So the opposites interaction, they bring the evolution, which is the yin and yang, the positive and the negative, white and black, the duality, the night and day, man and woman. So he started to study this moment by moment. So as I read and he quote, rhythm is in time what symmetry is in space. He says, Jarba says, this is fantastic. No, he did not use much I Ching, but his interface, his connection were due to numbers. So he was the guy who created the cosmos. So cosmos it doesn't mean universe. Cosmos means the ordination of everything. So he created harmony in space is symmetry. Harmony in time is rhythm. So this is something whenever we study things that Professor Vieira wrote about synchronicity, the synchronicity has rhythm, has tone. That's why the line from the physical modern that went deep on studying the reality is the string theory, because the string theory studies the mathematician from the music. And Pythagoras was a person, the science, who started that. So Pythagoras was a person who, in the beginning, started to research musician. No, so trying to understand the rhythm, the sound. He was not interested on music. He was interested on harmony, on understand the harmony. So he wanted to understand what were the numbers that would generate harmony. Harmony meant situations. What is the order of the universe that generates harmony? So he has this idea back then. He wanted to understand how the reality got organized. So using numbers. And today we see that the language that needs the most for you to study parapsychic phenomena and also synchronicities is the mathematician of music, not the music. It's the mathematician of the music, because there you have all the variables that are connected with the synchronicities. You have flow, reflow, rhythm, cadence. And today, the physical part that advanced the most is the string theory. No? And this is, of course, if we think about the string theory, is mathematician and is basically comes from Pythagoras. No, it is Pythagorean, this string theory. And then with this, we see how important it is studying the evolutionary parapsychism. So we can see that the Pythagorean ideal is the harmony. The harmony from the opposition is movement. The equilibrium, the equilibrium between the opposites, the gold number. So the gold number is the most harmonic part. Whenever you look to this video, for example, you automatically, your attention will be direct to your eye. Your eye would direct your attention to my face, because my face is exactly in it's placed in a gold number. So he placed himself in an important gold number. So it's a way of symmetry. It's a way of looking for the space harmony. Whenever we study beauty, aestheticity, oh, it's interesting. He's showing that he is exactly in the middle of the screen. And he says that he is in the point that will attract the attention from those who are going to look the screen. And even this symmetry, this looking for the harmony of the space, means that what is harmony? Harmony means that you can be harmonized with the cosmic flow. This is harmony. This was very studied with philosophical aestheticity, and he thinks it's fantastic, this type of study, because it involves parapsychism. So the energies in a place where we have the balance, a harmonic place, they are much more easier to be manipulated than in a disorganized entropic place. No? So you go on Guggenheim, on those museums that are very twisted. No? It seems that it is the modern architecture, he says that it's a kind of chaos, because it's all twisted, and also in a modern art. So the harmony is the unification of the diversity. No? So looking the not impose concordance, but the consonance. Questions will be for later, he says. No? This shape here is the way that Pythagoras saw the universe. So the number one is the prime taucine. It's number one is not a prime taucine. He's just doing one association. But the relationships, they happen between micro and microcosmos. No, they have homological relationship, but the relationship, they occur with analogies. No, so the prime taucine, but the shape that we write, for example. So back then, the way they used to write number one were different. So the tools that we have today in order to interpret the reality, we cannot compare with the tools that Pythagoras had back in his reality. So with the number one, he creates a reality. And then from that comes the triad, the initial triad from Pythagoras. And then there is an interaction between this sacred triangle from Pythagoras. He's saying that this triangle means a number that was glued together with his theory. So from the number one popped out number two. Number two is duality. No, so the entire reality organized himself using duality. No? Night and day, man and woman, yin and yang. Everything is duality. Nothing is just one. So that attracts the reality. No? So the tensions between opposite poles, they generate a new thing. But when a negative interact with positive, it generates a new thing, an electricity, something new. And the new thing that generates is the number three, which is the creation of the reality. Few people would call Maya, the illusion of the reality, because of the tension of the opposition. So the more you look for harmony from the opposition, less the illusion of the reality would be strong for you. So the more opposites happen in a non-harmonic process, the most you would see chaos. And here, so on and so forth. And then we have number four. Number four is three-dimensional. And then we see number 1, 2, 3, and 4 added all together, they add up 10. So everything is inside this reality. For Pythagoras, everything is inside those four numbers, and everything organizing the cosmos based on that. It's like I Ching. So I Ching, we have 64 possibilities. No? And from 1, 2, 3, and 4, Pythagoras would pop out his conclusion. And he says that it is not far from what Taoism said. No? So Pythagoras was not in, was never lived in the China and oriented in the Orient together with the Oriental population. So Jarbas thinks that Pythagoras study everything in Egypt, everything that he created from Egypt. So there is, so he would go ahead and talk about Arithmus archaid and Arithmus chimas, which is the flow from the numbers, from the realities. It's how the realities, they organized and they move. It's interesting. So Pythagoras would like to understand the ordination under movement, no, under the movement. I think we are in our time. Oh, a question about the prime tocene. So the prime tocene, Jarbas said, is what we suppose is the first reality. Someone talked about our reality at the beginning. You know, that reality had a beginning, started somehow. So there is a principle of the things. The principle of the things in our reality, we call it first tocene. What is the first tocene? What is the prime tocene? Is the power of our tocene, thought, sentiments, and energies. So who developed the first thought, the prime tocene? So this person that creates this prime tocene, this is the first thought. So the prime tocene is the first thought about reality. Nobody knows who did that. So it is God who created that. No, Jarbas said, it is not God who created the prime tocene. So we need to. So the prime tocene is not God. Whenever you use the word God, you bring tons of garbage and mystical garbage and religious things that remove all the real meaning from that definition. So we cannot use this word God to define that, because God is also used for a guy who killed tons of people inside an airplane, as also to a psychopath or even or a cosmo consciousness. So this is not God. So Francisco de Assis, for example. So those are words, no, they are important words, but they are not used anymore because they had lost the capacity and the meaning of defining anything more important. So those words, they are old from the history, no? They kind of, for example, love, no, love. Let's analyze the amount of perplexity and amount of things that people would do in the name of love. So Jarbas said, come on, how can we use a word like that? So that's why the neophilia, the new constructor looking for new terms, new words, maybe was one of the most de-intruded, most mental somatic de-intruded, more efficient de-intruded techniques that exist. So when people mention, why you guys from Conscienciology use these terms, why conscience and not spirit? No, because the word is specific for that used. So because we look to be precise and avoid this mental pollution. So whenever we use terms that are polluted, you pollute your mental soma. Gematria and those things that are old, that carries a heavy weight. So everything that we are talking here were very useful for us in the past. They were crutches useful for us in the past, but we don't need crutch anymore. Of course, my body is a crutch. No, theoretical, I would not need my body, but I need now to live in this life my body. So, no. But in my level, no, I could be energetic globally, but in my level, my body is necessary. So using crutches is not the problem. The problem is using a crutch that is not necessary. So we can use our body, we can practice vibrational state, we need to sweat our body to take the best out of it. But on the other hand, using crutches that we don't need, this is something stupid. But of course, no, talking about our body, our soma, we gotta use for many, many years until we don't need our crutch anymore in terms of body. So he's going to do a break and then he comes back soon.
Profile. And this girl wrote about jealously.
Depois de quanto tempo de se deitar com o marido, nós podemos participar dos mistérios? Aí ela responde: se for o seu marido, é instantâneo. Se for de outra, nunca. Ou seja, ela já dá uma paulada de saída, né? E é uma figura fantástica, uma pena que ela não seja mais estudada. Teano, a esposa de Pitágoras, é uma mulher fantástica. Foi escrever o tratado, naquela época mulheres naquela época era só para ter filho, completamente analfabeta, ela escreveu vários tratados.
In that moment, most of women couldn't have access of studies, and so she wrote many information about Pythagoras. So here he is a big reference about synchronicity. Even Socrates, Plato, most of them are very famous, and they can talk about synchronicities. And even they talk about Pythagoreans. So he's talking about books. So you can see some of the names here. Pythagoras and the numbers topic is the name of the book, talking about Pythagoras. They talk about theory, not mathematics, or math. In most of this book, they talk about theories.
Chegou no platonismo e no neoplatonismo também.
So Pythagoras talk about Platonism and Neoplatonism. Theus Anner, and as philosopher, he was one of the most that I can talk about per psyche. Nicomachus is the writer about Pythagoras too. Iamblico or Jamblico is one of them wrote about even Pythagoras, talking about this book, the theology of arithmetic. Even this information he's writing right beside you, the name of the book. So we continue to talk about Pythagoras until the third century, the 3rd century. And when he finished the Alexandria library, we can talk even about Jung. The Symbolism of Yourself is a book wrote from Jung. And he's talking about the evolution of the planet. When we talk about astrology, we talk about the beginning of the earth. When the earth starts, we talk about the Kundalini energy, and even we talk about Tauro, is the first zodiac in the astrology. So 30,000 before Christ, they talk about the Aries. And after that, we talk about wars. Most of the things that happened was war in the earth.
Antes de Cristo, começa a fase do signo de peixes.
In the century 11 before Christ, we talk about Pisces and religion.
Jesus de Nazaré, que é considerado o avatar da era de peixes, ele nasce no século 6 a.C. Ou seja, todo aquele final da filosofia grega, e o nascimento do cristianismo e da evolução da religiosidade, principalmente ligado ao Ocidente, né? A gente está falando do Ocidente.
When we talk about Occident, we are talking about religion, and they start in the century 6 before Christ. And so, since there, we start the Pisces moment, and we are finishing now. 1729, we are talking about the French Revolution. That we start the Saturn Revolution. So we are talking about 1,000 years that we have a regency, that we follow Aquarian. So the cosmic flows and this kind of cycle, we can talk about a lot of migration. So we are talking about consciousness that can migrate from other planets to the Earth. So this reflection that we are talking about astrology, it's about Jung, that he wrote in his book, comparing to Pythagoras. We are talking about in the past that probably we couldn't have so much helpers. Helpers is the consciousness that they have the function to help others. In this idea, the consciousness is an extra physical that can help some group or some idea or what we have to do in this moment. Is a substantial help for the group that they can do something good. Probably we had in the past revolutionaries, serenissimos, but not in that period we don't have a special or technical helper. So we are talking about helper now. So he was talking about Socrates, that probably he had someone like helpers that couldn't stop and talk about or something to help or to have some idea. Abba, it's the name of helper that probably Jesus had in the beginnings of the century. Abba is a name in that moment, in that period, that probably they use as a helper. So it's one idea that probably he had a helper in that moment.
Que a pessoa recebia, se ela é vinculada a processo assistencial, poderia ser amparador.
So when we are talking about helpers is something that we can do something assistential that can help about ideas. So the synchronicity can even have some relation with the helpers. So the first thing is that you can understand what is the idea that you can have about helpers.
So we have to understand the difference between helper and a guide. There is a considered interesting difference between them. So, for example, if a person does mistakes, lots of mistakes, one after another, it's probably a guide, not a helper. So there are even bellicist concierges that would give us hints, give us ideas. So we have to differentiate helper than blind guide. Also, he's saying that he wants to talk about Jung. Soon he will be talking about Jung. But he is evocating the question again about the primal sin that he answered before. And he said, look, I am not expert on primal sin, but what I see according to the logic and to the reality of the synchronicity is important to understand what is a primal sin. But of course, there are entries, there are verbetes, there are many books that Valdo Vieira wrote about primal sin.
Quer saber, pelo que entendi, as pessoas precisam ter mais sensibilidade para detectar as sincronicidades?
Tem. Isso tem que desenvolver. É igual ver. Todo mundo pode ver em
So people need to be sensible in order to be able to perceive synchronicities. This is a question. No, he said, yeah, we need to practice, we need to train, we need to, first of all, we need to be aware of that. It's like swimming. For you to learn how to swim, you need to practice. You would not pop out and learn how to swim suddenly. You need to practice. So the most parapsychic perception you have, you would perceive more this synchronicities. So, for example, what's the difference between the synchronicity in conscienciology and synchronicity of Jung? The difference is that he says Jung talked about this superficial synchronicity, you know, telephone number, little things, date of birth, but in terms of the conscienciological synchronicity, which is deeper, no? we need to analyze in a much wider, a much spreader way and connect with our life. But of course, it doesn't mean that Jung also did important study about synchronicity. If you type there in the internet Jungian synchronicity, you would find dozens of books that will be dealt with that. So, Jung, according to Jarbas, or ectoplasm, he had two phenomena in front of Freud. That's why they end up splitting, because Freud was afraid. And I think that Jarba says that Jung materialized ectoplasmia in front of Freud, and Freud was very afraid of that. And then Freud realized that he would be putting his theory, he would be jeopardizing his theory. That's why Freud went far from Jung. So the main, so the prefix, the pre-book, the presentation of the book, Ishing is from Jung, because Jung was aware of lots of synchronicities, no? But of course, he wrote a book trying to talk a little bit about synchronicity, but he would at the same time not to get so involved with parapsychism in order for, in a way that he would compromise himself inside the academia, inside the university. So then at the end of his life, Jung wrote an important book, but he published only this important book because he was almost dying, because he was execrated from the academia when he wrote this, his last book, because of the parapsychism. Of course, try to speak about parapsychism inside the university, inside the academia, and see what happened. You would go to the ostracism. Question about the quality of the synchronicity. The quality of the synchronicity is the tocin. It's the level you understand the synchronicity, how hard and how deep you understand synchronicity is exactly how you connect and how you associate yourself with the cosmic flow. So your tocin, they has an expression, they have a cosmic symphony, as Pythagoras used to say. So the cosmic flow has a symphony, has a rhythm, has an orchestra that generate. No. So you need to learn how to play the music. So what music you need to learn to play in order for you to be resonance with the cosmic flow? Jarba said, it is exactly cosmoetic. Whenever you learn about cosmoetic, you will end up being totally connected with the cosmic flow. No? So what we call it cosmoetica is when you understand cosmoetic, and when you really understand cosmoetic in a very deep way, in this moment you synchronize with the cosmic flow. So when you synchronize with the cosmic, it's like having a cosmo consciousness. It's the synchrony between your tocin and the tocin of the cosmos. When there is an interaction, you end up becoming the cosmic flow. And then you end up being the cosmic flow. So this is the cosmic consciousness. So when Professor Vieira used to say about, used to talk about cosmos, no, cosmoethic. So ethic is a political process, depending on the planet, depending on the situation, depending on the, but cosmoethic means the laws that coordinate the cosmos, the laws from the cosmic flow. It's like playing the orchestra together with the cosmos. It's like you positionate yourself towards the life in a way that you would not play different than the main music. So for example, whenever you generate a karma, you create a conflict. What is a conflict? A conflict is a karma. You need to come back and rebuild the instrument, rebuild the musician, and replay the musician. Whenever you replay the musician in a cosmoetic point of view, you are resonance with the cosmic flow. So when you are together in resonance with the cosmos, with the prime tosin and with the immanent energy, you end up becoming the cosmic flow. So it is not only mastering energies and popping out of the body. Okay, this is a part of that. But what is important is your evolutionary personal file, meaning that how much you dedicate yourself to cooperate with the cosmic flow. So depend on what have you done. No? So, for example, there is no way just dealing with phenomena. The important point here is analyzing what you have done with the phenomena. Were you lucid about the phenomena? What have you done with the phenomena you've been using? So, Jarbas said, if you are using the phenomena in order to cooperate with the cosmos, then you are under a syntony. You are resonant with the cosmic flow, and then you start having the cosmoetic and the cosmo-consciousness. And then you start to realize how the reality is complex.
Pergunta aqui que eu acho que você já está respondendo. Olha, essa aproximação entre o microcosmo e macrocosmo teria a ver com o avanço na interassistencialidade.
It's a question between the proximity among micro and macro and microcosmos. No, what is whenever I connect micro universe and micro universe, it's basically when you associate yourself and the cosmos, is basically picking all your intelligence, all your creativity, and then you direct towards assistance. The more you do, the more you cooperate with the cosmic flow. Of course, the cosmic flow, which is interested on assisting people, and then in this moment you would be having a bigger comprehension about this phenomenon. Until then, everything I am talking are hypotheses, no? Of course, there are people who had important information. Plotino, Buddha, for example. The history of Buddha, for example, has an important history. So for Buddha wanted to reach samadhi and nirvana and maya, which represents that reality. No, in a hypothesis. It seems I think he's talking, yeah, he's giving us one example about something that happened. Yeah, it's a hypothetical history, no, that he's saying about Buddha, meaning that a student comes to Buddha and say, with which authority you call nirvana? And then Buddha answered, with the authority about all the blood that I throw away when I help the planet. And then, according to the history, the planet popped out, and then Buddha was recognized as an important master, important teacher. So what Buddha advocates for him to reach nirvana. According to the teacher, he advocated his FEPI, his evolutionary personal file. So the Oriental people, they don't talk much about this. No, say they think they just need to be inside a cave, inside a place, and then evocate, no, and do lots of meditate a lot in order for him to be able to reach nirvana. This is so. As Buddha said. So according to what he says, I don't know the history, but according to what he says, when Buddha reached nirvana, he came back, planned 70 days, and then came back to teach about his nirvana. So he said, basically, if you stay closed in a place, in a cave or in a mosteiro, and if you are alone by yourself, it's hard for you to evolve because you are escaping from the reality. You are creating a dissonance, a cognitive dissonance. You are creating a fake reality. No? So what happened with Osho, Rajneesh? Rajneesh died with AIDS, with HIV. Bagayan Trufa from Ricochet. And he died because he drank a lot. So so Rajneesh, when Rajneesh went back to reality, he was not able to deal with the reality. So whenever you are isolated inside a mosteiro, you are the king. But whenever you find, and whenever you are inside the reality, dealing with money, dealing with conflicts, dealing with family, then you see the reality. Because if you are away, if you are escaping from reality, you're not learning, you're not dealing with the reality. So this is not the world reality. If you want to see your energy is good, and if you really master the process of energy, pop out from your body and go to the baratosphere and move your energy. And then you will see if you master energy when you are in the baratosphere. Whenever you are dealing with energy or moving energy inside your house, nice, thumbs up. But so, and then how about the world reality? Whenever you are there day by day, the crazy stuff, the conflicts in the planets. So what is your parapsychic terra, which means how much in terms of parapsychic you can deal with in your holosoma, in your body. Now, this is very important, and this is interesting. So he is showing us this image. This is not Shiva, he says. This is the wife of Shiva. She is Shakti. Shakti is energy. And then there is Vishnu, Vishnu is the creator, and Shiva is the destroyer. Shiva is the guy who destroyed reality. So what was the attribute from Shiva? It's Viveka. Viveka means discernment. So what destroys reality is discernment, he says. So what is the feminine attribute from Shiva? It's Sha. Sha is energy. That's why she dances. She is stepping on top of a pig, showing that she mastered the primitive instinct, and she dances. So energy is all the time moving. But as Pythagoras said, we need to know how to dance. We need to make the energy to dance in a very harmonious way. Why a woman and why dancing? Because women, they tend to be connected with peace. So it's not a sex, it's attributes. So the feminine is the wound, is the receptor, and the energy is connected with viveka, discernment. So those things that is around her neck, it's one tool, one instrument. One of the attributes from the energy. And her hand is on fire, meaning an equilibrium, meaning a balance. So she is balanced, she is in a balanced way, mastering energy. Meaning, whenever you master energy, you master your energy with balance when your discernment shapes the energy. So nevertheless, this comes from old times, but this is not wrong. No. So you go whenever you analyze energy and you analyze the statue. This is not the point. The point is not analyze the statue. The point is analyzing the meaning that is behind the statue. So whenever you master the energy, you can express yourself in a harmonic and balanced way. And then it means that your discernment master the energetical process, holochakra, psychosoma, and physical body. So this is in the level where the illusion popped down. So if the physical illusion popped out, if physical illusion is destroyed, you are connected with the cosmic flow. So this is reinforcing is Shiva's wife. Shiva is interesting because in Yoruba translation, Shiva means Shango. Shango comes from Africa. Shango is a guy who says the truth, who talks the truth. This is Shiva. Because we are going to assist a lot in Africa, we need to analyze the mythology from Urubá because of Africa. And even north of Brazil, the biggest parapsychic, those sacerdotes, I gave a class about this in Consecutivos, about Urubás. They come to Brazil, they created their landscape north of Brazil. Of course, they have a hard and primitive ritual. But the main idea, the main initial idea is that is exactly this, is the guy who destroyed the illusion. They talk on your face, they destroy the illusion, they talk in front of you and they talk about reality. About this.
Essa teoria diz que a matéria mais básica se comporta como onda, onde elas se diferenciam apenas pelo
This string theory, the basic matter behaves as a wave. What is the connection with music and synchronicity? Well, first of all, Jarbas is answering. In order for us to analyze, we need to study the mathematician from the music. The reality is a metaphor. No, the reality is a metaphor. Everything we see here is a theater. It's a big theater. It's a metaphor. But it's important for us to see the difference between analogy and a metaphor. What we are doing here is a lots of analogies. But of course, in analogies, we can talk clearly that the string theory is a Pythagorean theory because it involves vibration. Of course, pick the book. Pick the book from the, pick a book named Elegant Universe. Basically is, in order to understand that, you understand the theory based on the vibration of the musician. He's talking about the phantom. He's now evocating the phantom effect from quantic physics. So the quantic physics is not the more correct one, but it's very elegant, he says. Of course, everything is going to be questioned. No, this is one of the biggest things that Professor Vieira used to say. So folks asked Professor Ba, how do you think your books would be in 100 years from now? And he answered, well, I hope that my books, they would be, many overcame them. So it is, everything is a flow, everything is dancing like Shiva's wife. Everything renovates. The neophilia is one of the most important attributes from Serenissimus. Looking for things new. I'm not talking about something stupid. I'm talking about new ideas, new verpon, leading edge relative truth. This is the biggest power of evolution. If you are, if you stopped in your life because 2,000 years ago someone wrote a book and you stopped your life, come on, give me a break. That was back then for that people over that. So Apolonio of Tiana, for example, wrote 2,000 years ago. It's not useful for us here now in 2020. But of course, Apolonio of Tiana is not about what he wrote back then. For me, what interested me is how he were able to understand that reality. For example, the theory of morphic resonance from Hubert Sheldrake, if one person can master this theory, everybody can master. So there is nobody special. Everybody is going to sweat blood. Everybody is it's going to need to work under their possibility. Walking, standing, walking, following down, standing back, walking again. And here we go. And then we go. The importance, but important is searching for the new and not only repeating and repeating and repeating and talking about astrology all the time. Astrology would not help you. You are going to lose a huge time. Studying Kabbalah and also astrology. This is bad. This will not help your life. That's why what I am bringing here, it's historic. It's because I am giving one historic overview for you to know that how those realities arrived today the way they arrived. So for example, Apollonius of Tiana is there doing the best. He's studying, he's doing his best. And then there is a person that comes here and say, no, the guy is special. That's why he is there in that place. No, it's not like that, he says. So there are no gurus. Gurus, they have bellyache, they have problems. They are no special at all. It doesn't exist perfect beings. We need to reset that way of thinking. So this is a quick example about Kabbalah. It's the esoteric part from Judaism. And it's the more mystical part. So Kabbalah mastered the energies with mantras. The biggest specialist in mantras.
E é muito interessante. E outra coisa, eles estudam muito as sincronicidades ligadas a texto.
So the mantras, the he's explaining a little bit how people who created mantras, they evocate and why they evocate the mantras. Well, Jarbas is saying that mantras are important to understand because of the power of the word. It's an art of creating holotoscenes, creating egregoras. So the magic is the art of creating egregoras, creating holotoscenes. How do you create? You converge all the attributes that you have. For example, you pick a plant, you pick a specific crystal, you pick an ectoplasm, and then you converge with a healing target, a specific corridor. No? So Professor Valdo used to talk about the room that he built in order for him to be prepared to visit China, to go to China next life. So he created his room that simulates a Chinese holotoscene, which was in his house, inside his house, a room whenever he placed all the objects that evocate China. So this is also a magic. It's a lucid magic because you create a room in order for you to evocate a process. No? He said that whenever he popped inside of the room, he will feel himself inside of China. But there are other types of magic. There are black magic, for example. Black magics, they are hard. There are, for example, many politicians that are many magos, many guys who deal with magic in order to help them to conquer a few things in politician. But of course, the teacher Jarbas said he's aware that even in politics there are a few sereníssimos that are helping those who are well with a good intention. There are many places in politics that are very well helped, with a fantastic helper and a fantastic energy. And then you see things that are not good happening there. So coming back to Kabbalah, Kabbalah study a lot. Kabbalah is studying a lot Torah, which is the Bible from the Arabic, if I understood correct. No, so they study what is between the lines in Torah. So they use mathematician in order to understand the text from Talmud. So people from 1 second, guys, let me just take one. The Jews, okay. The Jews, they also come from Egypt. So the entire knowledge from Kabbalah comes from Moses. Moses he was an Egyptian sacerdote. Priest, he was an Egyptian priest. Priestess. Priest, yeah. And then Al-Bahir, Sef Yatzirah are where Zephirots are. Like the same Pythagorean expressions those things like 1 and 2, like Pythagoras. So if you check the Zephyrots, you can see the same Pythagoras triangle. And then he studied Einstein, which is a person who developed this 1 plus 1, 1 plus initial 1. So which is created under our reality. So Einstein is the guy who created, is the creator who should not get confused with the creator, the creation and creator. And the creation organized in the cosmos with the Zephyrots. He's talking about, I think he's talking about Torah. No? So there are many things he could establish, many associations he could establish, but Professor Valdo evoked the between the lines that he talked a lot about between the lines encyclopedia, what he wrote between the lines in the encyclopedia. And Professor Valdo also talked about enumerator, no? Enumerator were perhaps maybe enumerator were a Kabbalistic. Maybe he learned a long time ago. So even though he had never ever any other contact with enumerator since Professor Valdo died, through the number, through the word, through Hebrew. Oh, okay. Every letter from the Hebrew alphabet has a number, and then you can sum the words. You can add the words. You add the words, and then you end up adding the numbers. And then by adding the words and the numbers, you can see the energy, and then you can create a mantra. So for example, the word that has a number, and if the number generates physical reality, of course, if I want to generate a positive holotocene, I can use good words. But if I want to create a conflict with a person, I would use words that are focused on that. So he's talking about positive and negative magician. So the group, when they connect themselves and deal with energy, they were able to qualify to help lots of people and also to destroy many people in Israel. No, so he's talking about the Kabbalah. He's now mentioning Luria is the biggest Kabbalistic person who ever existed. And I think he was born in the 15th or 16th century. And then Elijah, I think he's saying that he would be popping out of his body all the time. And he wrote a book, and he writes about extra-physical projection. Also, he's talking about Isaac Luria, Arikadoshi, which is Luria, which is Isaac Luria. This is this is one of the biggest Kabbalistic, and that has studied the capacity of synchronicity connected with words. A question, and now a question. According to a book, Jung has possibilities that the synchronicities were a mental phenomena produced by ourselves, and it will provoke meaning coincidence that we can see in our day by day. This phenomena would show a bridge between intraphysical and extraphysical world. Can you say something about And then Professor Valdo is answering. Well, where is the unconscious word that Jung talk? So I want to show you Philemon. Philemon was the helper of Jung. He said that he thinks it's interesting because there is a kind of tertuliarium under his feet. So this guy, this Philemon, is the helper from Jung. Jarba said that Philemon told Jung about inconsciente coletivo, collective unconscious, humanity, unconscious humanity. It seems that this helper, this Philemon, told Jung. He's trying to remember, trying to recall his words. He thinks that Philemon is just a mental representation. He's not sure that. And he said that this guy never existed. It was just a mental archetype. It was
Archetype.
it was an archetype. So Jung thought that Philemon is just an archetype from a helper. No, actually, according to what Jarbas researched, Philemon was the helper of Jung. It seems that Philemon built a house in order for him to come back to reality, which is written in the Red Book. And then it seems that this guy is not a helper; it's an archetype. But he thinks Jarbas is aware that Jung is a genius. It's something amazing. The difference, the intellectual difference between Freud and Jung is amazing. But Jung got lost with an art, letting the thoughts flow, letting this view, the mind to flow in a very loose way. So for him, it was hard to come back to the reality. So his family was very concerned. Jung's family were very concerned. No? And then it seems that he came back from those parapsychic information due to whenever he decided to build his own house, according to what Jarba said. No? So it was a chaos. This Red Book is a chaos. It's chaotic. He doesn't understand how a person with this intellectual level could write something crazy like this book. So first of all, Jung had a few problems with women. But before Philemon, he had two women helpers. He was very parapsychic. He would pop out and doing physical phenomena. There's a very nice book named Jungi o Mystical, The Mystical. It's from Getty. It's a guy that also wrote about Blavatsky. So he was even a guitar player, no? But he were able to write about Jung, about Blavatsky, so a guy who had many synapses and many neurons. from the esotericism, from the occultism. But he used to talk a lot about. So Jung is a complex person. So Jung's book, Synchronicities, is one of the most influential book from philosophy, from psychology. He also participated with Tart in his experiments. He realized that the parapsychic was real, but he was all the time unsure because he was a doctor, a psychiatrist, taught on Harvard and so on and so forth. I think he also taught on Switzerland. He thinks that he also taught in Switzerland. So for him, it was hard. That's why being an independent researcher is fundamental for those who really want to study hard and deep evolution. Whenever you are glued to institutions or glued into ideologies, you have a ceiling, and then you knock into your own ceiling. Money is there, prestige, the P, the letter P, you know, the power, prestige. So with Jung happened like that, not as Freud, but as well, it was what happened with Jung. So Freud was very limited if we compare with Jung. Jung, according to Jarbas, was one of the most biggest genius of the humanity. He's a guy that would be recalled forever in this planet, a genius. But, oh no, I'm sorry guys, he was talking about Freud. No, Freud is a genius. No, he said Freud is a genius, but if you compare Freud with Jung, Freud is limited because Jung is much more intelligent than Freud. But of course, he's now talking about in general, for the intermissivists in general. No? There are many intermissivists that had problems with money. No? The human body obnubilates, meaning it blinds us, it blinds the mind, it blinds the consciousness. So this is Wolfgang Pauli. It was a person, Jung's consultant in formulation the theory of synchronicity. So Jung met a physicist that was, he met Einstein, he met even Einstein, who was creating a theory, the theory of relativity. And then Einstein started to talk with Jung, his theory connected with light, energy, and moon, all connected with the physicists. And then Jung realized that that was connected with what he had experienced in the Orientalism and with the cosmic flow and the transcendent reality that he had read from Orientalism. And then Einstein started to talk about the physician, which became in the future quantum physics. And then Einstein launched his theory of relativity, and then he became very important. No, and then Jung used to drink a lot, and then he went and looked for Wolfgang Pauli. No. And then Pauli realized, when Pauli was talking with Jung, no, Pauli realized that So Pauli was also genius from a quantic, and then Pauli started to write a text together with Jung about synchronicity. In this book here, he says, Jarba says, Jung, spiritualidade and transcendent. Jung, spiritualism and transcendent. It's an interesting book and is connected with many important information, and there is a synchronicity part as well. So, and then this guy, this Pauli, no? Pauli was not an easy person, no. Even for Jung, it seems that Pauli used to create conflict with everybody, no. And then Jung wanted to publish the theory that he created together with Pauli, no, but he was afraid because he was inside university. So Einstein and Pauli helped Jung a lot to develop the theory of synchronicity, which he published 20 years later. So now he's saying that for sure about the ancient history, one of the biggest studies we could have is I Ching. I Ching was created by Fourie. Fourie is like a mythical being, like Achilles, Hieroclito. Nobody knows if it exists or not. Something connected with the Greek mythology, the Troya war in Troya. So Fourie was represented by a fishtail in a body of a man. And Fourie was a guy who created the trigrams, a first attempt to have a rational reality possibility to interact with the reality, with the extra physical reality. So everybody thinks that I Ching is going to tell you what is going to happen, but this is wrong, Jarbas said. I Ching just talk about your moment. So whenever there is a conflict inside those trigrams, the I Ching will give a present view, just about the energy from the present, the mutation, the books of mutations. Though a few trigrams will suffer mutation, and then they will give you the possibilities that your situation in the world. But Fourie, coming back to Fourie, basically he created those trigrams, which are those 3 grams that he is showing in the image. No, he says that a line that is cutted is a yang line, and a straight line is a yin line. And then you throw the coins, and then based on how the coins they are in the table, you can see the tensions of the moment. So a coin, for example, a coin that I drop on top of a table, it's under the same moment that I am living now. So if I am able to interpret the coin under the table, I will be able to understand the moment from that situation. Even with the helpers, the energies will interfere the way that the coin will be falling on the table. It will give you a picture from your moment. Your moment is like that. This is your reality. So if this reality that you are perceiving is generating a level of tension, a level of hard energy, let's suppose you have 3 coins that are in. So it is a high tension line that would end say E, that would end be a yang. And then this new trigram, that comes based in the first trigram will show you a tendency, will show you a possibility, but it's just a tendency. Nevertheless, those interpretations, when Forry created, they were not done. And then later on, the yellow imperator, they lost the war and they were placed in a tower, no? And ostracism, they had nothing else to do, they have only ishing. And they dedicated 20 years of their life to interpret the ishing. So they combine all the lines, those all 3 grams, 8 by 8, and they were able to create hexagrams. They were able to create 64 hexagrams. This is a mathematician language. So Forry came here, according to Jarbas, Forry was a Serenissimus, no? So, Forry came to the introphysical and generate a language. This is a language, an extraphysical language. And then they created an hexagram. No? Every hexagram gives the tension of the moments, the conflicts of the moments. No? So they created this ishing that we have until today, which is the 64 hexagram that were based on the 8 trigrams that were created by Forry. And many years after that, Confucius dedicated his last 20 years to study ishing. And then Confucius created, I'm not sure if it's a book or an article. I think it's a book. He didn't say it. I think it's a book named The Big Wings. And then Confucius says at the end of the life, he said, I don't need ishing anymore. Ishing for me was very useful for me to understand how the cosmic is organized. No? And then Jarba is saying, look, now Pythagoras is back. Look, Pythagoras back. And then Confucius said, I don't need ishing anymore because I am able to see the cosmic reality today without the ishing. So I have this reality inside me. So I don't need the crutch anymore. And then he abandoned ishing because he developed the discernment and the capacity of perceiving the reality and without ishing. And then he started to develop a very strong level of discernment. So a bird that will promote a sound and under a specific minute has an important message. There is a synchronicity. He recalls Valdo Vieira saying that in the newspaper, the president was wearing a blue shirt, and then he would arrive in Tertuliarium or in Holocycle, and in Holocycle, people would be wearing blue as well, and that was a synchronicity. And then Jarbas is giving one example that he went to buy bread with Professor Valdo Vieira. And it was unbelievable, Jarbas said, that he bought bread together with Jarbas, and all the papers that he dealt in the place had the number 11. So the cents, they were 11. Everything related around Professor Valdo add to number 11. So it is a kind of a path in which Professor Valdo, he said, he follows for the best. And this doesn't mean that you are becoming a psychotic person and following pattern. No, it's the moment, it's because you are connected with the cosmic flow, and because you are connected with your discernment, you have more synchronicity. But of course, if you don't give consideration to the extra-physical dimension, you don't see that. So, but on the other hand, when we start to pay attention in the extra-physical dimension, the synchronicity is a very useful tool, because if you pay attention on here, you can have the intraphysical is totally connected with the extraphysical in terms of synchronicity. And then we popped out from the hobexis from the physical world. There is a question now that mentioned I Ching. What is the most modern interconnection, interface between intraphysical and extraphysical reality? And then Jarbas is answering. Well, Jarbas thinks that is the lucid projection, because you popped out from your body and you go and you drink from the fountain, because you are connected, you are inside the extra-physical reality, because the projection of the body gives you a nice view from your real reality, where you are, where you come from, and then it opens the entire reality for you. There is nothing better to amplify the cosmic view from your reality than a lucid projection. You popped out from your body, and then you see your body laying down in your bed. And that there is no book, no energy that would gives you a shock and that would move more with your brain. You see how this physical dimension is a big illusion. So according to Jarbas, the biggest tool we have today with the cosmic flow is the lucid projection. I'm sure about it. But of course, for us to arrive to acquire lucid projection, we have the vibrational state. So there is no way of jumping stairs, no, jumping phases. No, we need to apply vibrational state, and then you can talk straightforward with your helpers. And then it's like Luria, no? Luria will pop out from his body and would talk with his helpers in order for him to assist out of the body. So it's like another reality open, and then you popped out from the matrix. So, but of course, here is the real desert, but you need to pop out, we need to pop out from the matrix, and the synchronicity helped us a lot. But he is sure that the lucid projection is the connection between intraphysical and extraphysical. So another question about enumerator. I think was the question about a question about transmitter and enumerator. Professor Jarbas thinks that transmitter might be a Serenissimus, and but he's not sure. He's just aware that transmitter and enumerator, they were helpers from Professor Valdo Vieira. Muwei. He says that Muwei is a base of Taoistic cosmoethic. No, it's Muwei is the same cosmoethic. It's how we can move in this life without generating conflict, without generating karma. So you are going to use the power of your oppositor. You just conduce opponent, yes. It's like in jiu-jitsu, for example, aikido and other martial arts, you use the power from your opponent. No, you use the power of your opponent, and then you escape from that. You don't go against. So Tao means it's a cosmic flow. So tau means cosmic flow. This is tau. And oh yeah, oh, I'm sorry guys, I cannot pronounce on, on. So UN is the same as cosmoetic. For us, he's saying that is for us to act without generating karma, UN. And then you need to be acting, resonating with the Tao or with the cosmic flow. So being synchronic with the Tao. No? So when you are using cosmoetic, you are in resonance with the cosmic flow. So this in China, no, Taoism was very, very important, no, and then oh, this is Wu Wei. This is now I can pronounce because I can see the image, no. So yeah, it's you can see the image, no, Wu Wei, no. But the initial philosophy from Wu Wei is the connection, connected with the cosmic flow. So Leibniz is also a person who study a lot the monads. So they study monads, no, a lot. Jung also study, no. Jung is also it's still until today a genius, no, a big reference about synchronicity. It's a genius, but he got lost a bit in mandalas and mantras and our artistic field. But it's a very, very, it's a person with lots of culture. Basically, this is what he wanted to address. We are going to talk about conscientiological issues. No, he just think it's important for us to conclude the course, but then you guys can read. No, even on the lexical orthotocene lexical, it's well explained. So this is the prime tocene and immanent energy can be considered synonyms of synchronicities. So we can think a lot about this. So whenever we deal about the consciential energy, immanent energy, it seems different things. They are no, they are the same thing. And this opens a space for us to understand something interesting. Let's think together. So when you are developing your cosmoethic, there are two things that block yourself: free will and determinism. So the less ethic you have, the more the determinism will act upon you. So even people with physical problems, physical body problems, it's determinism. It's they have the consequence of the determinism. And this is nobody. It's the consequence, are the effects from the acts of the people that limitate the actuation of people. And then, after receiving many problems, he decided to become more cosmoetic. So the more cosmoetic he becomes, the more he helps the cosmos, the determinism diminishes and the free will expands. And then the people start to have more freedom, more liberty, more possibilities to weigh. And the restrictions of this intraphysical dimension, they would not struggle a lot, and then people would not suffer the effects from the physical dimension. And then they start to evolve. And then when they reach free consciousness, which is the end of the connection with the physical dimension, because he achieved the level of free consciousness. And under the free consciousness, you have no determinism anymore. No. And then in that moment, he become one with the cosmic flow. So let's think now, Jarbas said, what happened if no karma and no determinism act upon the person? What will happen with that person? He popped out from the body, he popped out from this cosmos. And then what happened? He ended up becoming a new cosmos. He ended up becoming, it's the prime chosen from another cosmos. So whenever we talked about macrocosmos and microcosmos, micro and macro, it's exactly what we are talking. We are talking about a prime tosin that were cosmo tosin under other moments and under other realities. So one day we are going to achieve the cosmic of Jarbas after millions and millions of years. So let's think logical. Let's analyze this sequence. We diminish the determinism and we amplify the free will. No? So we are, Pythagoras used to say, we all are God evolving. We are all here to learn to become prime tosins. So we have trillions of bacteria. Now let's analyze. No, let's analyze. Let's think about a shoal. No, many fishes swimming together. So if you have many fishes swimming together, they turn right and left together because there is a holosphere that coordinates this shoal. Show, yeah, right, show. And then inside our bacteria, there were mitochondria, trillions of viruses and trillions of cells. So Professor Valdo used to say that a virus is already a consciential principle. So if the virus is a principle of a consciousness, what is a bacteria? A bacteria is much more sophisticated than a virus. If we have trillions of consciential principles inside our holosoma. So now I ask you guys, what are we for those bacteria? We are the prime tosin of the bacteria. We are evolving. So we are fractals. We are Russian dollies, one inside another. So what we call microcosmos and macrocosmos and their relation, it's much beyond, much profound, and much more wider, embracing than the reality we can perceive. This is a big metaphor in order for us to teach to become a new cosmic. So we are going to create new consciousness from our capacity, from ourselves. But of course, he says, this is totally materiological. No, no. It's hard to understand. Of course, it's materiology. No? So many of this is connected with that. No, so we lead this to the evolution. No? So where this will lead us, it's not lack of nexus. No, analyzing those things I just said. So it's for us to understand what we are talking, microcosmos and macrocosmos, and the interaction between both. So our reality and the reality of the cosmos. And this is very profound. So we are reaching our time, but he wants to reinforce that he will be able to answer all the questions.
Não quer fazer uma pergunta? Alguma coisa tem alguém mais urgente? Tá tudo certo? Ah, tá. Então, então a gente vai
So
fazer a avaliação do curso.
we are now please asking you to evaluate our course. So a course like this needs 6 hours, so we have less than 3 hours to talk about it. I hope you like it. We have a poll popping out at the screen now, and I would like to say thank you very much for your help and for everything. Thank you all.